Hey guys, Pete here. It's going to be my Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 3 preview. I've already done a trailer breakdown with the frame by frame earlier in the week, so this is going to be tied in with that, but based primarily on these new photos we got from Episode 3, which is titled The Queen's Justice. There will be some spoilers here. If you don't want to see stuff that's going to come up, you won't want to watch. But other than that, I'm not presenting anything new. So as mentioned, the name of the episode is The Queen's Justice. And it's interesting because we don't know exactly if they're talking about the queen who's sitting on the Iron Throne or the queen who has just arrived in Dragonstone, or both. We know that this episode is 63 minutes long, which is about 9 minutes longer than the average. So that's a good amount of time to add when you think about how fast things actually develop in an episode of Game of Thrones. The big thing that they are pushing is that Jon Snow is finally going to meet Daenerys Targaryen. We've seen that in the trailer, the SDCC trailer, and now in these photos that almost exclusively kind of focus on that setup. So we'll start with this first image that is Jon and Davos getting out of a boat, landing on the beach at Dragonstone. In the season premiere, we saw Daenerys land at this exact same spot. And with everything that's going on, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of comings and goings from this landing here. Jon is dressed to impress with his direwolf breastplate that we've seen in a couple other shots, and he looks the part of King in the North. Davos looks like Davos usually does, but they both have this determined look on their face, and they realize the gravity of the situation, and it's pretty awesome. They arrive with a small escort, so no one else of note to mention behind them there. They're just guards. One of the things I really love about the Helen Sloan photos, she's the on-set photographer that does all the stills that we see in promotional materials. And one thing I really always love about them is the detail that you can make out compared to like screenshots and stuff that we see when we watch it in real time. So what stands out here the most to me is Jon's clothing. He has officially come a long way from his days as a brother of the Night's Watch. We get two shots of Musante and Tyrion, who were sent down to the beach to receive these guys, as of course you wouldn't expect the queen to be out there to meet them in person. Again, the details here are the highlight since we get to see these two close up and their get-ups. We've seen this stuff in the filming photos that came out earlier, but they were all like a mile away, so this is really cool actually. We see that they're both decked out. Tyrion has some new stripes and his Hand of the Queen pin. And Musante has a cool adornment there with 3 dragon heads arranged in a circle on her leather trim. So Team House Targaryen came dressed to impress their distinguished visitor from the north. Because this is Tyrion, we can imagine that there'll be a pretty good conversation that'll happen here. He stated that he likes Jon, which we've seen in their previous interactions, and those have all been quite some time ago. Davos and Tyrion, on the other hand, should have some serious bad blood based on what happened at the Battle of the Blackwater. If you remember, Tyrion is the one who unleashed wildfire on Stannis' fleet there, which in the show's version of events killed Davos' son, Mathos. Fun fact, in the books, he actually lost 4 sons at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, but that isn't really important here. Tyrion was responsible for the death of his only son on the show, and this brings to mind that even though most of our attention is on Jon and Daenerys meeting, some of the other meetings are going to be like maybe more interesting if you think about it. In the trailer, we saw Jon and Davos being led to the throne room up Dragonstone's awesome staircase there, and in the SDCC trailer, we see the shot of all those dragons circling above the castle. So I've been wondering if Jon and Davos will see those see them for the first time at that point. We have 3 actual pictures from inside the throne room. The one we've seen already, which is Davos and Jon looking at the throne and the queen for the first time. I mentioned Jon's look in the trailer breakdown, which looks like awe, or possibly he's just uncertain in his position, so he's a little bit overwhelmed. Either way, he doesn't look confident or set up in a way that he feels comfortable, which is what you'd expect the queen to do, was put him in a weird position so that she has the upper hand. I mean, we see that she's sitting on her throne like a real queen. It's up higher than he is, so she has, so she looks down, he looks up. Definite cool setup there. It's our first sighting of her wearing the Targaryen colors, if I'm not mistaken. We see that she has a red cape to go along with her black dress. Then that's all pretty exciting. It looks like she has a dragon chain that drapes around. And yeah, she's come a long way too. She looks a lot more like a legitimate queen of Westeros than Khal Drogo's child bride. In this group of photos, we also have a brand new shot with her standing up talking to Varys in front of the throne. Here it looks like she's getting some counsel from him, and it's hard to speculate exactly what would be happening. I expect that relations are going to break down in this meeting because Jon won't bend the knee. So he may have made a point here, something that gives her pause where she has to ask Varys something about its validity or what he knows about it. Either way, there's not much in these photos that changes what I speculate will happen. I mean, Tyrion specifically left out the part about bending the knee when he wrote Jon in the last episode, and this is probably because he figured no one would agree to him coming south for that reason. And remember, Tyrion and Daenerys don't really have any idea that Jon was interested in coming for Dragonglass in the first place. This may be what the next photo is hinting at. We see Tyrion outside talking to whom I am presuming is Jon. Now we could tell this is at a different time because Tyrion's wearing something different, but this exchange should be really interesting as Tyrion tries to appeal to Jon's reasonable side. We all know Jon has that reasonable side, but as this plays out, it's really not very likely that they're going to come to an agreement of any kind early on. But overall, I think Jon came south looking for an ally, and Daenerys will probably push the issue of him pledging fealty. And by that I mean not an equal working relationship, and this is going to back Jon into a corner. Daenerys will want to show her strength most likely, and that's very real. She has real strength. She doesn't necessarily need Jon to accomplish her goals, and she's probably not going to back off that position. It's basically like bend the knee or we're done here. So, if we look at their objectives, they're not the same at all. Daenerys wants to be recognized as the true queen of Westeros and hold the Iron Throne. And Jon is worried about the White Walkers approaching from the north. In their first meeting, I don't think that either will be very interested in the other person's plan, so this relationship's going to just take time to develop. It has to. This is why the image of Varys and Melisandre talking may be the most interesting of all these photos. She's the only person at Dragonstone that understands that the White Walkers are the real threat, and so she could be a valuable ally to Jon in getting Daenerys to see things as they are, but there's this problem that Jon's man wants to kill her on sight. Davos is obviously not going to drop his dislike for her in a day so that things will work out. Things are going to get complicated. Plus, we know Varys is kind of adverse to the idea of magic and red priests and priestesses based on what's happened to him. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic. Although I do think that he sort of came around in the Kinvara situation, but we really don't know. Beyond Dragonstone, we got a few images of other parts of Westeros. We see Sansa and Littlefinger in the north. To me, it looks like they're receiving someone at Winterfell, and at first I thought this might be Bran, and then I thought maybe Arya, but it seems weird, Littlefinger's standing out to the front, he's in front of Sansa and she's behind, which you would think it would be the other way around if one of her siblings was there. That could be just reading too much into the photo, I don't know, but in reality, this could be just about anyone showing up, so let me know in the comments what you guys think Littlefinger is up to here. I mean, it probably involves him doing something to drive a wedge between Jon and Sansa, but who they are talking to doesn't seem outright obvious to me. We also have a shot of Samwell at the Citadel, so we should be visiting there. I mean, there's not much that we can tell from this. He's talking to someone that's probably behind that desk that he's standing by. And then the last photo from this batch is a very cool close-up of Greyworm getting ready to move on Casterly Rock. This really gives us a nice look at the unsullied armor with that same three-headed dragon adornment that we saw on Musante. And this could be the Queen's Justice here. It's her payback for what happened at sea. We really don't know. The last photo of the entire group is of Daenerys, and she's turned fully around on the staircase scene we've seen in the trailers. It almost looks different because this photo is so much clearer, but you can see she's wearing the same clothes and that you can see that three-headed dragon pin that she has on her chest. As I mentioned, my thoughts are that she'll be meeting Jon one-on-one here, and that he'll make a more compelling plea for his cause. He may have to try to get back in on her good side if shit went down when they met in the throne room. But at the end of the day, I think he can plant a seed here, and they'll still have a distance to go until their goals line up. Now, I got some flack in the comments about saying that Jon won't bend the knee to Daenerys when they meet, and honestly, I still stand by that. I'm not sure if people aren't looking at the whole picture or what, but when she tells Tyrion she expects him to bend the knee, it translates to him putting the North behind her cause. His house, his name, all of his men that follow him. We know that her cause is that she wants to rule Westeros. I give the show a lot of leeway because it's enjoyable to watch, but if he comes and pledges to her, I will have a hard time accepting that. It would mean setting aside what he was just arguing with in the Great Hall, that the real threat was north of the Wall, and it just wouldn't make sense for him to do it. On the other side, if she's just all like, oh, this White Walkers, these things sound really scary, that's terrible, count me in, and then she just goes out there and helps them take out the White Walkers, that would be equally annoying. She spent the entire series becoming a queen, and her aim is to take back the throne for her family. So, with all that in mind, I think there'll be a huge roadblock here. She'll need convincing, he'll need to make his case, and it's just going to be like that. And she'll be making a serious offensive strike against the Lannisters when Greyworm hits Casterly Rock with his Unsullied. So, she's got other things going on, too. The bit in the description about Cersei returning a gift is pretty curious. I don't think there's any chance that she's going to give back any of the 3 prisoners we expect Euron is delivering to her at King's Landing, at least not alive. So this could have some real implications. I'm guessing she'll choose a long and torturous death for Ilaria and Tyene because of Marcella, so that leaves Yara. And things aren't looking good if your last name's Greyjoy and you are at the capital right now, I don't think. Euron has no love for her, so yeah, she's kind of out on a limb there. It should be interesting to see how that whole meeting goes down. We didn't get any new photos from King's Landing, but we see in the trailers that, Euron's definitely going to arrive in this episode with his gifts. And we know that the episode description says that Cersei will be returning something, so we'll just have to wait and see. We also get from the description that Jaime learns from his mistakes. And, I was thinking about this when I was writing the script, and there's so many of them. I don't know if this is tactically or if this is dealing with his sister so let's discuss it in the comments, see what you guys think. Hopefully you see a little bit now why Jon won't bend the knee, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I could always be wrong. Let's not confuse it. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So I hope it doesn't happen. I hope we get to see a reasonable story develop between these two. Are you more excited about Jon meeting Daenerys, or are you hoping that he'll see the dragons and what happens with that? Let me know. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel. I've been doing a full schedule of Game of Thrones, and I will be continuing to do that on top of all the other videos I make, so check back soon. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.